In February, Democratic real estate broker Boyd Roberts announced that he would be challenging longtime GOP Representative Dana Rohrabacher, CA 48, in the upcoming midterm elections. In March, businessman Harley Ruda, another Laguna Beach Democrat, declared that he would be gunning for Rohrabacher's job as well. Then came pioneering stem cell biologist Hans Kierstead, and American Airlines pilot Tony Zacharides, and lawyer Omar Siddiqui, and Nestle executive Michael Kodak. And these California Democrats aren't unique. Earlier this month, the party won key victories in Virginia, New Jersey, and scores of other local contests across the country. But one of the biggest stories of the night, if not the biggest, was recruitment, particularly in the battle for control of Virginia's Republican-dominated House of Delegates. In previous years, Virginia Democrats had failed to field challengers in politically promising districts, conceding dozens of seats to vulnerable but unchallenged GOP incumbents. But 2017 attracted droves of diverse, often rookie candidates electrified by President Trump and itching to resist, and by Election Day, Virginia Democrats had standard-bearers on the ballot in 88 of 100 districts, the most anyone could remember. The party wound up winning 16 seats, roughly twice the number even the most optimistic partisans had predicted before the election. This, in turn, has led to newfound optimism for the party going into 2018. According to Politico, Democratic leaders are now predicting a fundraising and candidate recruitment surge, powered by grassroots fury at the Trump administration. When it comes to recruitment, the conventional wisdom is clear: the more candidates, the merrier. Given the failed agenda being pushed by Paul Ryan and Washington Republicans, it's no wonder that strong candidates are stepping up to the plate in Orange County and across California, says Drew Godinick, a spokesperson for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. The deep bench of outsider candidates is a testament to the incredible grassroots energy we are seeing on the ground. Or as the DCCC chair, Representative Ben Ray Lujan, DNM, has said elsewhere, no party ever lost an election due to too much energy and momentum. Could an unprecedented glut of Democratic hopefuls and the crowded primaries that are sure to follow tip the scales the other way? Could Democrats be in danger of having too much of a good thing? This, at least, is the line that Republicans in the traditional conservative stronghold of Orange County are peddling. And so, more than anywhere else, the OC will be the place to watch to find who's right. In November 2015, with roughly a year to go until Election Day 2016, only one Democrat had launched his candidacy across all of Orange County. For the most part, these challengers are not the gadflies, vanity candidates, and sacrificial lambs that have run against Rohrabacher and co. in prior elections. Not to mention 19 more like them. Political scientists say there's a strong relationship between the number of candidates a party recruits and the party's win-loss record on election day. If a party can convince a large number of skilled and experienced candidates to run for office, those candidates tend to do better and the party tends to win more seats, Seth Maskett of the University of Denver wrote in August for the data-focused 538 website. Democrats had twice the number of challengers that Republicans did in 2006 and then took over the House in that election, while a similar advantage yielded similar payoffs for Republicans in 2010. In his analysis, Maskett plotted the Democratic share of viable, early House challengers, that is, candidates who raised more than $5,000 by June 30 of the year before the election, against the number of seats Democrats eventually gained or lost on Election Day. He found that in every election since 2004 in which Democrats fielded more candidates than Republicans, they also wound up gaining seats, an additional 2.5 House members per each additional percentage point advantage in early House candidates, on average. The most extreme example was 2006, when nearly 70% of the early House candidates were Democrats. That year, the party netted 31 seats on Election Day. Which brings us to the problem with the political science on recruitment. The numbers so far this cycle are way off the charts, making it pretty much impossible to predict how things will ultimately shake out. Case in point, according to a recent analysis by Michael Malbin, executive director of the Nonpartisan Campaign Finance Institute. 391 Democratic challengers have already raised $5,000 or more. No other cycle comes close. The next highest tally belongs to the GOP, who in October 2009 boasted fewer than half as many candidates, 184, with $5,000 or more. In fact, at every fundraising level, $5,000, $25,000, $50,000, $100,000, the Democratic class of 2017 is more than twice as large as the Republican class of 2009. So far, so good for the Dems, right? Absolutely. But the flip side of this flood of Democratic challengers is that a lot of them are clustering into a few pivotal races, competing against each other for the opportunity to unseat the most vulnerable Republican incumbents. As Malbin points out, 8 Democratic challengers have filed FEC reports in the race against the incumbent, Jeff Denham, in California's 10th district. 7 are running against Dana Rohrabacher in CA 48, 7 against Peter Roskam in, and 7 against John Faso in New York 19. The most these 29 challengers can do in the general election is defeat 4 incumbents. In other words, there may be 391 viable Democratic challengers out on the trail right now, but they're only running against 156 Republican incumbents, which means that, on average, 2.5 Dems are already competing in each primary contest, with roughly a year to go until Election Day. Rewind to this point in the last Democratic wave cycle, 2006, and you'll see that the average number of primary candidates back then was significantly lower, about 1.4 Dems per contest. Yet it's not impossible to imagine that squeezing 7 or 8 Democrats into a competitive House primary could have some unintended consequences. The level of enthusiasm that comes with such a crowded field almost always outweighs any downside, says Dan Schnur, a former spokesman for Republicans Pete Wilson and John McCain, who until recently ran the Jesse M. Unruh Institute of Politics at the University of Southern California. But there needs to be some type of organization or structure through which to channel all that energy. In fact, some Democrats worry that in such a scenario Republicans could put their thumbs on the scales, says Dave Min, one of 2 University of California, Irvine law professors running against Walters in CA 45, along with 5 other Dems. With so many candidates, we run the risk that the incumbent will play in our primary, Min tells News Pulse News. Republicans could spend money to help pick a weaker candidate, the challenger they want to face in the fall. A cramped field can also complicate fundraising. The problem isn't so much a lack of donations, so far, overall receipts have been impressive. It's that we all have to spend down to zero in the primary, while the Republican incumbent saves her cash, according to Min, so she'll have more than $1 million on hand to define the contest from day one, while our nominee will have to start over from scratch. Meanwhile, things could get even wilder in California, where control of Congress may ultimately be decided and where Democrats compete against Republicans and independents in a nonpartisan primary system. The top 2 finishers proceed to the general election regardless of party affiliation. Here, the risk is that splitting the Democratic vote 7 or 8 ways in a historically conservative area could allow a non-Democratic challenger to finish second and go head-to-head with the GOP incumbent next November. The DCCC has said that, to prevent such outcomes, we absolutely reserve the right to get involved in these primaries where necessary. In the end, Democrats should be excited about how many candidates they've recruited for 2018 and how many have simply volunteered. The biggest class of challengers in recent memory? That's a good problem to have. But it's also worth remembering that the party is proceeding into uncharted territory and that 2018's most congested primaries could shake out in some unusual ways.